Welcome. We start with some breaking news from Hong Kong, where a court has found Tong Ying-kit guilty of inciting secession, making him the first person to be convicted under the territory's controversial national security law. Mr. Tong was arrested in July last year after he drove his motorcycle into 3 riot police, injuring them while carrying a flag with a political slogan. The law came into force after a series of mass pro-democracy protests in 2019, some of which turned violent. Let's go live to Hong Kong and speak to Danny Vincent from the BBC Chinese service. Danny, welcome. Bring us up to date on this story.
Well, the whole of Hong Kong have been waiting quite patiently to see what the verdict was and, of course, the sentencing, what that would be of this case. Mr. Tong was, of course, the first person arrested under the national security law. He was charged with riding a motorcycle into a group of policemen. He was also carrying a banner, a flag with a political slogan. Now, that political slogan was used quite widely throughout the Hong Kong protest movement in 2019. During his court case, this was a topic, the words of this slogan were a topic for hot debate, and now he's been found guilty. There's an argument that the prosecutors used that they claimed that the words that were used on his banner, the political slogan that was used, the words "liberate" and "Hong Kong," that now has been deemed as essentially an act of terrorism. We don't know when his sentencing will be. We know there'll be mitigation later this week, but we do know that he's been found guilty of these charges.
And tell us more about this law, because Beijing says it is widely needed to bring calm to the territory.
Well, this law was introduced around a year ago. It was the authorities, including the Beijing authorities, they said that it would only affect a small number of people. Now, a year has passed since this law was introduced, and more than 100 people have been arrested. There have been several arrests over the last few weeks. Many activists will feel that the law is quite wide-ranging and it's affecting a wide number of people in society. A large number of activists have been arrested. Some people that were formerly part of the political process, others were political activists, but many people feel that the law is being used to silence dissent. People that support the law and the authorities would say that Hong Kong has been transformed since this law was introduced. 2019 saw back-to-back protests across this city. Sometimes almost every weekend there were protests, and often they became violent. The authorities would say the law has returned stability to this city, but people that are against the law would argue that it's been a stretch. They would say that it's challenged, it's eroded some of the freedoms that Hong Kong residents were guaranteed when the city was returned to China, and many people feel that it's simply being used to try to silence people that try to speak out against Beijing.
And we don't yet know what sentence Tong Ying-kit faces, but this case does set the tone and had wider implications, doesn't it?
It sets the tone simply because it's the first person to be charged under the national security law. We don't know when the sentencing will be, but if the sentencing is harsh, that will certainly send a message to other people that have been arrested. But activists across the city, they feel that this law works in 2 ways. Of course, people are arrested and they're charged and they're taken through the legal system. But the very existence of the law, they would argue, has already silenced the protest movement, and it spread fear across this city. They would say that the law is draconian, and they'd say it's far-reaching, it's wide-ranging, and it's vague. But the authorities will point to the stability that this city has seen since it was introduced last year.
OK, Danny Vincent in Hong Kong, thanks very much for the update.